April 2nd Parker Town Council meeting. I will go ahead and, wow, we got a rowdy bunch tonight. Should we do the wave? You know, woo. So you get, all right, middle section, come on. The sides did it. And Tom, can you get the wave on your camera when they do that? You got a wide angle lens? All right, ready? Start at this side. Ready? Go. Woo! Back, 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 back. We gotta keep it going. Back, 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 back. Look at that. Look at that. We even got the attorney to do it. I'm not pointing at any other attorneys in the room, but I didn't see your hands go up now. Just saying. All right. I'm going to go ahead and reconvene the Parker Town Council meeting for April 2nd at 7 p.m. Council, please sign in. All council members are present with the exception of Councilman Josh Martin, who is out for a family item tonight. So I know we got like 800 scouts in the room. So if you're a scout, a Boy Scout, Cub Scout, Girl Scout, any of that, come on down forward, please. In uniform or not. In uniform or not. No pressure. Come on down, all the way, not standing in your seats, but come all the way down.
Jim Maloney was a scout.
Jim Maloney was a scout. There's a lot of us that were scouts too, but. All right, if you're a scout under the age of 18, that's the thing. Okay, all right, 18, are you 18? Yeah. Okay, under the age of 19, how's that sound, right? He's gonna go back, no. All right, so the reason I called you guys up is because you have a big responsibility tonight. You guys get to do the most important thing that we do here tonight, which is honor our nation, so with the Pledge of Allegiance. Way it's gonna work is, all the people behind you are gonna stand up. They are not gonna do anything until they hear you start the pledge. We're gonna turn around. So in a sec, the floor is gonna be yours, and you just lead us in the pledge. You guys cool with that? Yeah. All right, audience, if you wouldn't mind. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good job, guys. Fantastic. The cadence was about, you know, a little.
We had a few going a little too fast.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was.
All right, so you guys are Troop 868, right? Yeah. All right, well, welcome, you guys. You're the troop from Ave Maria. And so just so you know, if you guys have, if you have good questions, things like that after the meeting, you're more than welcome to come up. For those in the room who also don't know, and for you guys to please pass along as well, the second Thursday of every month at 4 o'clock in this room is Scouts Night with the Mayor. So if you ever need time to hear about the town, ask questions for your merit badge, Boy Scout, Girl Scout, Cub Scouts, Brownies, anything, you can come the second Thursday of each month. Just call the front desk at any time and let them know beforehand. They'll get a certificate made for you and get you scheduled and all that stuff. So I do that every month, so it's a good opportunity for y'all. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead, let's see here, and move on down. We've got a couple special presentations tonight. Rich, Rich, why don't you come on down for me? Rich, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hey, Rich Forrester, 22846 Hale Avenue, Parker. And I am here on the behalf of the Parker Senior Center and a member of the Board of Directors to recognize a scout. He did a project for the Senior Center that was his last project to get his Eagle Scout Award. So, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you guys aren't aware, if you're not aware what it means to be an Eagle Scout, shame on you. Because come on, guys, we got like scouting's really big around here. As an employer, I just want to say that I know that when I'm looking at resumes and when I'm looking at hiring people, seeing the fact that someone made it through the ranks of Eagle is a huge benefit in terms of employment, because that shows someone who has leadership skills, dedication, all the things that exemplify what it means to be a citizen. I know I'm not alone up here when I share that sentiment. So we all love to see Eagles, and to be able to become an Eagle, you have to do a community service project, and that's what Rich is going to talk a little bit about tonight, which is what Jet has done, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Okay, just a little bit of background. You know, the Senior Center is independent of the town. We are one of two in the state of Colorado that are independent. I think most of every other senior center in Colorado is run by the town itself, but Parker and one other were independent, so we get our money for running the center from donations, membership fees, and grants. So whenever we have somebody that will come in and do a project for us, really helps us in cutting our costs. And that's what Jeff has done today. So Jeff, and what he did was he contacted the center and wanted to do a project. So I said, yeah, we do need a project. We got a lot of projects we could have done. I said, but one that we really need done is the men's and the women's restrooms have never been updated in years and years, because the center is 33 years old now. And so he came in and we talked about it, and met with him and looked at the women's bathroom and told him what we needed. And then he went back to the drawing board and designed a plan and a way to work it out. And then he contacted a local home improvement business in Parker, went to them, told them what he wanted, and was able to get most of the supplies donated. And then he had some people helping him, his mom and dad and maybe 1 or 2 other scouts. And they put in probably about 75 hours working on the plan and meeting with people, and then getting the vanity, a brand new vanity for the ladies' restroom. They put it together. It came in one Saturday in February, spent about 3 hours, took out the old one, put the new vanity in with a new countertop, new sink, and a new faucet and everything. So it looks beautiful. And we greatly appreciate what you've done for the senior center. Yep.
And I got a chance to see the pictures of the before and after, and I got to say, seriously, if any of you want to have your bathroom remodeled, give this kid a call, because it was a pretty darn good job. So congratulations. Do you have anything that you want to say?
Sure. Just like a thank you to anyone in the audience that was able to come out and help me make it possible. I had a real fun time doing it, and just to all you scouts out there, I highly suggest getting your Eagle Scout project. That's it.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you grab your certificate, come up, and Mom and Dad get a picture of you up here with it. And Rich, come on down as well.
Okay.
Come on down up front.
We'll go down front here.
Are we?
Make sure the hair's Boy, girl. Boy, girl, boy, girl. Did you hear her? You're not in it.
Oh, I didn't say you.
No, you're in the, you're in the center, dude.
What? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Somebody could
All
take
right.
a picture with Mom and Dad.
Yeah,
Mom and Dad need to get in there too.
Mom and Dad, you want
Mom and Dad. Yeah.
You want a picture too in here?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, young man. Appreciate it. Good job, bud. All right. Now our next presentation, to go from Eagle Scouts making bathrooms look pretty awesome to Doreen from our police department talking to us about storm-ready weather things. Come on down.
Thank you. Good
You're
evening.
welcome.
I'm actually going to introduce Greg, who's going to introduce the next Greg to kind of tell you about the program. Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Thornton, the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for the Town of Parker. Council members, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to announce that the Town of Parker has been recognized as a storm-ready community now through the National Weather Service. And I'm going to introduce Greg Hansen at this point with National Weather Service to talk a little bit more about the Storm Ready program and why it's so awesome that we've been recognized.
Sweet. Now if we can just get a couple storms to come through. And, but no, come on, okay.
Storm ready, not storm proof.
Yeah, exactly.
So my name is Greg Hansen, 15486 West 72nd Place in Arvada. Sorry, not a Parker resident.
That's all right. Yeah, you can still move down. There's at least one realtor in the room. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, it's a nice community. We spent some time here before the meeting. So, yeah, so I work for the National Weather Service. We are the federal agency that does weather forecasts, watches, and warnings to alert people that inclement weather is coming. We do a lot of work with emergency managers across the state, but we have the storm ready recognition for those that rise a little bit higher than the rest. And the Storm Ready program is to recognize the work that Greg and Doreen have done for preparing the community for storms. Things like having a 24-hour warning point. When we issue a warning, it's got a place to go and people to take action on it. Multiple ways to get weather information, ways to feed weather information back to us, having a plan, having an emergency operations center, all kinds of things that are good emergency management practices anyway, but are really focused on the weather as well. So I've got a little certificate here that says the National Weather Service, oh, and this is also in association with the state of Colorado Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management. They're part of the Storm Ready Board that does the recognition. So between the National Weather Service and the Colorado Storm Ready Advisory Board, we recognize the town of Parker, Colorado as a storm ready community for enhancing the public safety by promoting the principles and values of the Storm Ready program and demonstrating your readiness and ability to respond to weather hazards. And as part of the program too, you get a nice sign.
Sweet, excellent.
Hopefully when I come back to Parker Days in June, I'll see this maybe on the park somewhere.
There you go. Hey, as long as it meets our sign code, you know, that's just saying. Public Works is looking at me like, we got to get the tape measure out and just make sure first. So,
right,
excellent. Well, Greg, thank you very much.
Congratulations, and thanks to Greg and Doreen for all that.
All right,
stuff.
awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Can we take a quick
Of course
photo,
you
Mr.
can.
Mayor? Thank you. We're going to come up. Is that okay?
Fancy camera.
Yeah, come on down.
We're doing that.
Boy, girl.
Boy, girl.
Yeah.
I guess we all.
Is it,
Do I got to do this? Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Is it reflected?
is it,
Is it a traffic signal?
awesome. Thank you guys.
Well done, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming down.
All right. Next up on our agenda is our Parker Chamber of Commerce updates. I know Dennis is not available tonight. He's part of the committee who's helping Douglas County School District interview the new candidates for the new superintendent. So he's there with that right now. But we are lucky, right, Josh? We are super lucky because our next update is not only from one of the coolest ladies I know, but she is by far the tannest person in this room. Shelly Mango with the DBA, why don't you come on down? Because I know you were at some warm spot for the last week, because that tan is kicking.
All right, I'm gonna have to find a way to embarrass you back. That was super embarrassing.
There you
so,
go. All right, DBA updates.
I do want to say thank you to one of our board members, Todd Hendricks, in this beautiful orange, vibrant shirt
looks
in the
pretty
back
tan in
for
that orange.
attending. I want to recognize all of our board members whenever I come to a town council. I also want to say I have a family obligation that I have to go to after this, so I apologize if I scooch out.
You're fine.
So thank you, Mayor, and everyone for having me have the DBA update this evening. First, I would like to congratulate one of our DBA members that also serves on our town. Okay, maybe I'm going to embarrass him now. Josh Rivero and his wife Anna for celebrating their 10th anniversary at Fika Coffee. So way to go. So now I'm really going to embarrass you. Not only, is this coming out? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Not only is Fika the best coffee shop in the town of Parker, but we are really blessed to have a man, a citizen like you, Josh, that gives so much to our community. And so we're super blessed. We're so glad you're on the DBA. We're so glad that you've celebrated your 10th anniversary. And here's to many, many more years of happiness and success.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so as far as our committee updates are concerned, our marketing committee has been diligently working on our downtownparker.com website, and just so you know, it should be live by May 1. We will do a lot of promotion through Facebook, social media, etc. as soon as that website is live, and we want to get people to start going to it to find out what's happening in downtown Parker. So look for that May 1st. Our Creative District Committee is very excited to partner with the Parker Artists Guild to kick off the first 2018 First Friday Art Walk. It will be hosted at Deep Space on May 4th from 4 to 8 p.m. The following First Friday Art Walks will always be the first Friday of every month. They will be outside, and we are expanding it throughout all of downtown Parker. So it's going to be an exciting artistic season this year, so please come visit those. Our Government Action Committee has assigned committee members to be liaisons to a variety of the town departments, and actually county and state departments as well. They have these people are personally assigned to organizations or groups like planning in the town, P3, town council, and a variety of other groups. They will be reaching out to those departments in the next month to introduce themselves and be the point of contact when specific issues, plans, or ideas that are directly affecting our downtown Parker area come up. And as a group, our DBA can be a source of to support or whatever our opinions might be, but we are a good collective group, and anything that falls in those realms, we will be able to support the town in seeing through those actions and items that can happen. So for all those different departments, you will be contacted by somebody. Keep your ears and eyes open for that person, and that will be your point of contact, and they will be reaching out to you to ask you questions, and then you will have the ability to reach out to one person and be that liaison to the DBA. Our next meeting is April 11th, and our guest speaker will be Weldy from P3, so we're excited to hear about what's happening with P3. And those are all my updates. Do you have any questions for the DBA?
Council, questions for the DBA? Don't mention the tan. I already did that.
Always use sunscreen.
Always
I kind of forgot a couple times.
That's all right. It's all good.
All right,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank
and
you
have
very
a wonderful
much.
evening.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is general public comment. This is an opportunity for you to come up and give public comment to town council. These are for items that are not on our agenda. If you're here for an item that is on the agenda, there'll be a public comment opportunity for that item. So this time it's just for general public comment. There's a 3-minute time limit. You'll see above me there's a clock with 3 minutes on it. I got one against the wall over there and a big old fancy box that I get to turn that on with. When you come up for public comment, you'll state your name and address for the record. I start the clock. When it gets to 0, I will cut you off, not because I'm rude, but because I want us to get through the rest of the meeting. So there is that 3-minute time limit on it. So if there's anyone wishing to address council for public comment, general public comment, this is the time. Come on down. I wouldn't have seen. I'm glad you stood up, because with that podium there, I can't see a little block there. So
Filled out a form.
yeah.
So in here.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Kira Storajev. I'm at 10150 Granite Hill Drive in Parker.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So Mayor and City Council, I'm here tonight. I'm a mother of 3. I have a 10-year-old and 2 boys, Chaparral High School. And I moved here 4 years ago from Eugene, Oregon, and there we had a ban on plastic bags. And we found it was very successful. So since being here, I've diligently used my bags that I brought to the grocery store, but I do notice that a lot of people still use their own. So I did some research and I found that we have a big problem with plastic in our country and our world. So 12.7 million tons of plastic enters the ocean every year. That equals 1 garbage truck per minute. And UN had just reported that 21 types of table salt that have been tested found plastic in all of them, which means that the plastic is entering into our oceans, it's entering into our grounds. It's really a problem. We're now ingesting plastic in our foods. So I'm imploring the council to look into banning plastic bags. It is viable. And people did do it and are doing it in many cities. I know Hawaii, the state of Hawaii has banned plastic recently as of July 1st. So I would like to see if something can be done about this, and I'm willing to step up and be a participant in this and see what we can be doing to help Parker, because as we grow, we're going to have more plastic bags too, and more use of it, and more garbage. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Do it. So, Kara, if you could do me a favor, if there's a really great email address, and this is for everyone in the room too. It's called elected@parkeronline.org. If you send an email to elected, it goes to all of us sitting up here and our town administrator. So at any time, please feel free to correspond if you've got examples that you want to show, things like that. So appreciate it. Send it all down. Thank you very much. All right, anyone else? This is your time. All right, seeing no one else, we're going to go ahead and close public comment at 7:18 p.m. and move to reports, items, and comments from mayor and council. Let's start with Mr. Dyack.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Since we last were here, I had a DRCOG board meeting. As with DRCOG, they hand out assignments to people on a monthly basis. I am now the new board member of the Accountable Health Communities Advisory Group. I'm in that group, so.
Did all you high school students get that down?
Yeah,
that's called bloated.
I think that's 6 or 7 groups that I'm in at that situation. But at our meeting, we talked about CDOT's Smart Mobility Plan. We had Executive Director Mike Lewis talk about that. We talked about state legislative issues. It wasn't banning plastic shopping bags, but the state was trying to pass a bill, HB 18-1054, to assess a 25-cent tax for plastic shopping bags. That was postponed indefinitely, so unfortunately that didn't get through. I also went to the Metro Economic Development Corporation annual meeting and awards. Saw Governor Hickenlooper, Mayor Hancock, and we were there with a bunch of Parker partners. Dennis Houston from the Chamber of Commerce. We had Sam from the hospital, and we had a couple other people as well. So that is all for me, sir.
Okay, Debbie.
First of all, on the 27th, I had a meeting with the Douglas County Housing Partnership. Updates there. We approved the financials. We still have a lot of people coming in for the home buyers class. There are just no houses to purchase. Income is down with the down payment assistance being down, but some of that's being made up by HUD grants and developers and through some other means. Also had a P3 meeting, and our My Main Street project update. They've already had 2,000 visitors for that project page, and 165 surveys had come back. They're very pleased with that, and everything was very positive about the My Main Street page. P3 will be coming to us on the 23rd with some updates. This afternoon, Renee and I met. We had we were liaison to Human Resource and Parks and Recs, and they gave us some updates. I'll do it. You want to do HR and I'll do Parks?
Sure.
Okay, so for Parks and Recs, the ice trail was up 58% in attendance from last season, and the revenues from it were up 53%. I mean, $53,000. Probably there were about 10,000 visits to that, but when you include the passes where 4 visits per pass, it's probably more in the number of 20,000 visits to the ice trail. Not that I was not one of them, but
well, and we had a truncated season because of the warm weather, so that's great.
So very pleased with that.
So for the HR liaison meeting today, we discussed mostly the review process for the town administrator. So that was our big topic of conversation.
Is that why her arm's in a cast?
Yeah, and now she's in a cast.
We heard her.
We heard her. I also had my one-on-one with the town administrator today, in addition to the other 2 liaison meetings, and I was lucky last week to be on spring break. Just didn't get a tan like some other people in the room.
All right. Josh.
A few things. I had spring break, but I did, oops, there goes my chair. I did come back into town on last Thursday to do One World program, and we had a group from Ukraine visiting the town of Parker. They went to different facilities. I know they went to the police station. They were being hosted by South Metro, and then also by the Morning Rotary Club, the Parker Morning Rotary Club. And it was fascinating. We sat right here in this room. I had people from Ukraine here asking me questions about how we're set up, what the function of the town is, what it is we do, and I walked them through the organization, and they were fascinated. They loved on the outside of the building where it states the ultimate authority resides in the people themselves, to the people alone. it's really, really interesting when you think about it, because they're trying to set up a republic. So these are elected officials and emergency situation officials that are coming here to explore local governments. They've already kind of set up the federal level, if you will, and the state level, but they're looking to work on their towns and how they can better represent the people, to have an active, I don't say role in that, but to at least participate in that, and to have Parker recognized in that, I thought was absolutely fascinating. So thank you.
Yeah. Amy.
A few of my liaison meetings were actually rescheduled for a little bit later in the month. We did have our Councilmember Dyack and I met with the Parker Cultural and Scientific Commission, and that's a commission made up mostly of citizens from the community, and we worked on what the strategic plan was coming up here. Plans are in full force for the Honey Festival later on this summer, fall. I was just going to try and look up that date really quick. I didn't have it handy. And then also we have a public art and public places committee too. And so a lot of times you'll see artwork all throughout the town. What they do is they meet with other municipalities and they bid on the pieces of artwork that they'd really like to see in our community. So that is rotating art. I know some people do get attached to some of those pieces, but you know, it is fun to kind of replace it and see what's new coming into town. So you'll start seeing some new pieces pop up here pretty soon. I also had the opportunity to attend Neil Simon's Laughter on the 23rd floor at the schoolhouse, newly renovated schoolhouse on Main Street. And then also Friday Night Jazz the following week, and they played the music of Charlie Parker with a string quartet as well in there, and had a vocalist, amazing. Her name is Heidi Schmidt. If you ever see her around performing, go see her. She is just incredible. But it's just really fun because that schoolhouse, if you have not been in there, just swing by if you're out walking around Main Street, or just pull into that back parking lot and walk in. You're welcome to wander around, look in the old classrooms, see those renovations. We also have the Parker Area Historical Society has their museum there, so you can go in and look at some different things from the old days around town. And so it's just a great little venue. Keep an eye on that for other upcoming performances. And that's all I have.
All right, cool.
I always talk with my hands, sorry.
A couple things. I did attend the Tokyo Joe's opening here in Parker that happened last week. And then, that got some loud. You guys are Tokyo Joe's fans over there, apparently, right? I was on spring break as well. Got to take my youngest son to my alma mater, University of New Mexico. Kind of neat to see the place where I earned all those C's and D's. Nobody laughed at that. That was a pretty good joke. Have upcoming this week, Tuesday through Saturday, yours truly will be playing the role of Cowboy Bob in Footloose at Ponderosa High School. So if you want to hear some really mediocre singing, then buy some tickets and come see me make a fool of myself on stage. That'll be a load of fun. And
mediocre, not from the rest of the group, though.
What's that?
Not from the rest of the
No, the rest
cast.
of the kids, the cast is doing, they're all fantastic. Right. I'm the comic relief up there, that's for sure. But I do have a favor to ask everyone in the room, especially you high school kids and you scouts. One of the jobs that we all have as citizens is just to be leaders, is to do something to make our world a better place, right? Well, one of the things that I do every year, this year it's on April 28th, is called Shave the Mayor. It's an event that we raise money for pediatric cancer research. I see a young man with long red hair right there. You'd be a perfect candidate in that front row. What we do is it benefits the St. Baldrick's Foundation, and we shave our heads, our beards, whatever we can do. Last year we had 115 people shave their heads. About 20 ladies shaved their heads as well, from older to really young and everything in between. We're really down on heads this year. We need lots of heads. We only have about 45 people signed up so far. So guys, I need you to sign up, and here's what I'm doing to incentivize it. Anyone who signs up as a shavee between now and midnight tomorrow, I'm doing a little drawing. I have 2 carnival passes for Parker Days and 4 $100 gift certificates for Trapper's Chop House. So there'll be 6 winners. 2 people signed up today, so there's 4 more people, and you could be guaranteed to win. Just go to shavethemayor.com, click the Get Shaved button. You'll find out all the info on it. Today we had the winner chosen who gets to choose the color of my hair. A gentleman who made a $500 donation to the event won, and so he hasn't given me the colors yet. So if you come to the next meeting in 2 weeks, you'll get to see rainbow colored hair, pink, purple, green, orange, who the heck knows what it'll be. It just can't be white, because they can't make my hair white. My hair's too dark for that. So that's all I got. So let's go ahead and move on down to consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered to be routine. They'll be enacted with one motion and one vote unless a council member asks to have something removed for further discussion. So council, I'll entertain further discussion or a motion on consent agenda items 7A through 7H.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy and a second by, was it Renee? Who did? Okay, council please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Kids, you notice up on the board that all the lights went on except for mine. Do you think it's because I just am lame and don't want to participate? Why do you think that is? It's because in Parker, by charter, the mayor doesn't vote on stuff. My job is to be the conduit between you guys and these guys. It's their job to make and approve things, right? So you'll notice that my name didn't get to light up on that, so I don't get to vote. All right, next item up is our public hearings, item number 8. First one up, 8A. This is for Meadowlark annexation and zoning. There are 4 parts to this. There's ordinance number 2.258 on second reading, which is a bill for an ordinance approving and accomplishing the annexation of contiguous unincorporated territory known as the Meadowlark property in Douglas County. Second item is ordinance number 3.325 on second reading, which is a bill for an ordinance zoning certain property within the town of Parker, Colorado, known as the Meadowlark property to PD, Planned Development District, pursuant to the Town of Parker Land Development Ordinance, and amending the zoning ordinance and map to conform therewith. Item number 3 is the annexation agreement, and item number 4 is the sketch and preliminary plan. Now, Ryan, you're going to come shave your head with us, right?
Yes, I do it twice a week anyway.
Oh,
so,
come on, people. These are the jokes, dude. He's
Yeah.
as clean as they come.
I
Look
know,
at that.
right?
So, all right. Ryan,
you get Paul to do that,
You
actually.
get to leave the show.
But, okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be presenting the annexation, zoning, sketch, and preliminary plan in one presentation this evening. These items will require 4 separate motions, as the Mayor just articulated, after public comment and council deliberation. The property owner of this tract of land is Cherry Creek Project Water Authority. The property owner has authorized the applicant for this project, Henry Design Group, on behalf of Meritage Homes, to process the annexation, zoning, sketch, and preliminary plan. The Meritage Project team is present this evening, and they have a presentation following mine. So this tract of land is located on the east side of Crowfoot Valley Road, south and west of Lemon Gulch, and north of Richlawn Parkway and Drive. Richlawn Parkway and Drive is a Douglas County owned and maintained road. These are applications to annex, zone, and plat this 90-acre parcel tract of land from Douglas County Agricultural A1 zoning to Town of Parker Plan Development to allow for 267 single-family detached homes, open space, and active park space. There is also an annexation agreement associated with this Meadowlark annexation, and the annexation agreement sets forth conditions of annexation such as minimum parks and open space requirements for the development, payment of deficit reduction fees to offset the impact to the town's general fund, public improvement responsibilities, and school mitigation fees. The Meadowlark annexation agreement, which is included in your packets, has been signed by the property owner as well as by Parker Water and Sand. So the Meadowlark zoning, like all zonings, includes a plan development guide and map. The zoning establishes 2 planning areas. Planning area 1, which is shown in blue, will consist of land uses including single-family detached homes, 6.4 acres of parks, a community clubhouse building, and drainage tracts to service the development. Planning area 1 establishes minimum lot areas, building height maximums, as well as setbacks from the lot lines for homes that will be built. Planning area 2, which is shown in green, consists of a landscape buffer open space, which is almost 21% of the overall development. As this slide depicts, the open space consists of the Lemon Gulch floodplain on the north, landscape buffering from Crowfoot Valley Road on the west, and Richlawn Drive, and trail corridors along Crowfoot Valley Road and east of Lemon Gulch. So the master plan identifies the Meadowlark property as being located within the medium density residential character area, which recommends an overall gross density of 3.5 dwelling units per acre. The Meadowlark zoning proposes an overall gross density of 3.1 dwelling units per acre, which is under the density allowed. The Meadowlark property is also within the town's urban growth area, as established by the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Parker and Douglas County. Therefore, the Meadowlark property is eligible to be annexed, zoned, and developed in compliance with applicable town regulations, master plans, and intergovernmental agreement documents. So as with all rezoning requests, staff analyzes the proposed zoning against the 9 criteria outlined in Parker's Land Development Ordinance. Excuse me, staff has provided a detailed analysis of that in your packets and determined that it meets all 9 criteria. So moving on to the sketch preliminary plan. Let's see here. The intent of the sketch and preliminary plan is to analyze the feasibility of the project, including conceptual design of the subdivision, street, tree, and park, landscape plans, engineering technical requirements like traffic and drainage, in conformance with the master plan and zoning. The sketch preliminary plan as shown on this slide depicts 267 single-family detached homes on lots ranging from 5,000 to 6,600 square feet, with 6.4 acres of park as shown on red in this slide, and 18.93 acres of open space as shown in green. The parks and open space dedications are in conformance with the minimum requirements of Parker's Land Development Ordinance. So primary access into this subdivision will be from a future signalized movement access at Crowfoot Valley Road, with a new east-west running residential collector to be named Henslow Parkway. Henslow Parkway will also provide a future access to the east of this subdivision should those lands develop. A secondary access is proposed off of Richlawn Drive to the south. As mentioned, Richlawn Drive and Parkway is a Douglas County owned and maintained public right-of-way. This second point of access is necessary to satisfy the fire code requirements for a minimum of 2 points of access into the residential development consisting of 40 or more homes. A second access cannot be provided off of Crowfoot Valley Road due to the site's limited distance of frontage along Crowfoot Valley Road between Richlawn and Lemon Gulch. Due to the necessity of this access, the developer will be paying for Richlawn Parkway / Drive to be paved to a rural asphalt road section up to the secondary access as shown on this slide. So the applicant has implemented 2 strategies to minimize the impact to Richlawn Drive and direct the majority of traffic from this subdivision to Henslow Parkway. First, the lot layout and road network between Richlawn Drive and Henslow Parkway has been designed to minimize the ease of access to Richlawn Drive. This has been accomplished through a series of cul-de-sacs and roadway connections to Henslow Parkway that directs vehicular traffic to use Henslow Parkway as opposed to Richlawn Drive. Second, the intersection of Crowfoot Valley Road and Henslow Parkway will be a full movement intersection. It should be noted that the expansion of Crowfoot Valley Road and future development along that corridor may result in Richlawn Drive becoming a right-in, right-out restricted movement intersection, but for the time being it will remain a full movement intersection. The long-term access configuration of Richlawn Drive at Crowfoot Valley Road has been coordinated with Douglas County Engineering. The minimum landscape buffer between the residential lots proposed to the adjacent to Richlawn and Crowfoot Valley Road varies, but at minimum is 50 feet. In addition to the 50-foot landscape buffer from Richlawn Drive to the rear of the residential lots, a 6-foot-high solid screen privacy fence with columns is proposed on the rear of all those residential lots. As a requirement of the development, the developer is working with the town and urban drainage to make improvements to Lemon Gulch. While many of these improvements are technical in nature, in order to ensure the functionality of the gulch, the applicant is also constructing a series of pedestrian connections for the residential home sites and park sites to Lemon Gulch and along Crowfoot Valley Road. So sketch and preliminary plans are reviewed against 5 criteria, some of which overlap the zoning criteria. Staff has provided a detailed analysis of that as well in your packets and has determined that the sketch and preliminary meets all 5 of those requirements. So in conclusion, staff has concluded that the Meadowlark annexation and zoning, as well as the sketch and preliminary plan, is consistent with the master plan. It provides adequate access, pedestrian and vehicular infrastructure, drainage facilities, parks, and open space. The utility providers have confirmed capacity and ability to serve. All public notice requirements have been satisfied. And again, it satisfies the 9 criteria for zoning and 5 approval criteria for sketch and preliminary plans. So on March 22nd, 2018, the Planning Commission voted 4-1 to recommend that the Town Council approve the Meadowlark zoning and sketch and preliminary plans. Staff is recommending that the Council approve the Meadowlark annexation, zoning, sketch and preliminary, zoning and annexation agreement and sketch and preliminary plan subject to the conditions in staff's report. So that concludes my presentation. As I mentioned, the applicant does have a presentation, but I'd be happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Before we have the applicant come up, council, do you have any questions for Ryan? No? Okay. Yes, the applicant would like to come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Brian Connolly with the law firm of Otten Johnson, 950 17th Street, Suite 1600 in Denver. And I do want to state a correction for the record, Mr. Mayor. I did the wave when it went that way, but I was thrown off on the reverse wave.
All right. Just making sure. Just making sure.
I have the honor of being here this evening on the Meadowlark Project representing Meritage Homes. I'm joined this evening by Richard Cross of Meritage, along with Glenn Neer and Tom Jansen from Jansen Strawn Engineering, Karen Henry from the Henry Design Group, and Mike Roca, our traffic engineer. And any of us are available to answer questions as we go through this presentation. So we are bringing this project back to you after a very long hiatus. This was in front of you almost 2 years ago, at which point we requested a continuance because we were working out some issues between our seller, the Cherry Creek Project Water Authority, and the Parker Water and Sanitation District in order to get things squared away for inclusion into Parker Water and Sanitation District. When you're dealing with a water authority and a water and sanitation district, they've got water court cases against one another and a lot of administrative things that need to be worked out. But after a long time, we are now back here. And I do want to thank your staff, Ryan McGee and Paul Workman, who obviously is out with his new arrival, Alex, and then Mr. Maloney as well, have been very helpful and supportive throughout this process. We're going to go through, Ryan's already introduced the site, so not going to spend much time on that, and then we'll get more into the project. So Ryan, hold on this slide for a second. One thing I think to consider as we look at this project is the site, which is highlighted in red, or outlined in red rather, on this map, shows it in the context of other development projects that are occurring in the area. And so while this project is looking at 267 residential units, the projects all surrounding it total up to about 8,300 new residential units. So this is a fairly small piece of the puzzle of what's going on in this broader area. Next slide. Ryan already showed the master plan map, so won't dwell on that. And then I'm going to have Richard Cross come up and tell you a little bit about Meritage Homes and tell you a little bit about the project, and then I'll come up at the end and talk about some of the specific approval criteria. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Richard Cross, Meritage Homes, 6892 South Yosemite Court, Suite 1-201, Centennial, Colorado 80111. So quickly I want to go through who we are at Meritage Homes. We currently build in over 15 neighborhoods along the Front Range, top 10 builder nationally. I would say I wouldn't just say, we are the greenest national builder in the country, which we're proud of. And we're excited to be back in Parker. We're actually under development in the old Newtown community that's been sitting there for a while. So a little bit about Meritage, over 600 units a year in town. And I want to get more specific to this project itself. We're going to offer a 40-foot wide product and a 50-foot wide product, ranging from 1,800 square feet to 3,600 square feet. Homes will start in the mid to high 400s all the way up to the high 500s for base pricing. So that's a little bit about us. You can go to the next slide. This is just some product that we offer currently along in the Front Range. Next slide. And some of the energy efficiencies that we do. One of the things that we do that separates us from every other builder in town is our spray foam insulation. It's pretty amazing if you haven't had a chance to see it. Next slide. So as Brian had alluded to, I've been on this project for 3 years now, and we've done a ton of neighborhood outreach, whether it was the three meetings that we held with the neighborhood communities around there. I've met with urban drainage, I've met with the town, we're discussing Lemon Gulch's improvements. We're currently working with Trails at Crowfoot, which is the subdivision to the south of Richlawn, coordinating regional infrastructure improvements, water lines, and those kind of things. So we've had a lot of outreach to try to all work together to do what's best for this area. Next slide. I won't get into the land plan very much because I think Ryan hit it pretty well. The next slide does show a little bit more of a pretty picture of what is intended for the project. There's 4 parks. I think we've done a great job putting those parks together. We've worked tremendously on the buffers, and we're going to put this thing in 3 filings, and we intend to develop the project from south to north. Next slide. Again, just some other additional information. And then, as Ryan alluded to, we've had several engineering challenges and site planning challenges. One of the ones that was the biggest one probably was the connection to Richlawn to the south. We've worked with everybody, all the agencies, and we came up with the best alignment for that, and that's where that's located. And some of the other things, we have to bring a 16-inch water line down Crowfoot, and it can't be understated, the improvements to Lemon Gulch. When we first looked at that gulch in 2015 and met with urban drainage in the town, the scopes were about this big, and now the scopes are tremendously more. But I think that will become an amenity for both our residents and the town. Next slide. And so some of the community benefits, as I just stated, you know, we as Meritage are contributing $2 million to the improvements of Lemon Gulch, which will include a regional trail that will eventually tie into the Cherry Creek Trail. Obviously the widening of Crowfoot Valley Road, and some other things, as well as doing, you know, providing the cash in lieu for school dedications and those type things that Brian will get into a little bit more detail, and deficit reductions and those types of things. Next slide. Again, site plan. And then just some, real quickly, the responses to the neighborhood concerns. When we brought this project in, originally it was over 300 units, and through increasing buffers and those kind of things, obviously engineering challenges as well, we're down to 267. You know, there's a minimum 50-foot setback off Richlawn, but in many areas it's significantly more. We left on the north side of the gulch, we left 12 acres over there. We did provide a hydrant at Richlawn, and some other issues there as well. Next slide. And this is just quickly a cross section that kind of shows some of the buffer and how we tried to increase the buffer from Richlawn to the existing neighborhood, and we're down kind of below it. So, and I think that would be it. And Brian's going to come back now and go through the approval criteria. Thank you.
So just spend a few minutes touching on some of the approval criteria. I know Ryan already covered some of these items. A need exists for the proposal. We've heard already tonight about the severe shortage of housing in the area, and strong demand exists for single-family homes. We believe that this project will be a part of trying to meet some of that demand. In terms of this parcel being a correct site for the development, a few things to note. First, the site's not encumbered by significant environmental features, including water resources, steep slopes, wildlife habitat. We'll touch on that again momentarily. The property is designated for this type of development. It's designated for medium density residential development in the master plan, and it offers sort of a buffer between the lower density community to the south and then some of the higher density development that's occurring to the north. Next slide. There have been significant changes in the area to warrant a zone change. The property is zoned A1 agricultural in the county right now, but as I mentioned earlier, over 8,300 new residential units are planned in the area. There's commercial planned in the area, and so obviously the area has changed fairly dramatically since it was originally zoned. Next slide. Adequate circulation exists. One thing that I'd just like to amplify is that the secondary access point, which is required along Richlawn Drive, Meritage has gone through a sort of a significant site planning endeavor to figure out a way to accommodate that access, but not make it very attractive for traffic to access. One of the things that we heard from neighbors was a concern about traffic accessing on that existing county road. And so the way the site plan has turned out is it's sort of a circuitous route through the neighborhood, so it pushes most of the traffic that would be entering and exiting the project out through that main entry and exit point on Crowfoot Valley Road. And as mentioned, the developer will be covering the entire cost of a traffic signal at the intersection of Crowfoot Valley and Henslow Parkway, subject to future reimbursement from adjacent projects. And then pedestrian infrastructure will be constructed throughout the project, as well as extending down to the Trails at Crowfoot project. Next slide. Additional municipal service costs will not be incurred, which the town is not prepared to meet. In addition, we're contributing the deficit reduction fee as is required of all annexations. Environmental impacts. So an issue that arose at the Planning Commission hearing was the question of whether this site served as wildlife habitat, and also whether there was environmental contamination in Lemon Gulch. The applicant did a Phase 1 environmental site assessment in 2015, which revealed no evidence of wildlife habitat. It did suggest that a burrowing owl survey be done before any grading occur, just as a double check measure. And then the 2015 environmental study did not reveal evidence of any contamination on the property either. After some of the concerns were raised at Planning Commission, which was really about a week and a half ago, the applicant went back to its environmental consultant and had them go out and walk the site again, and then also prepare a supplemental letter that confirms that the results of the 2015 environmental assessment are still indeed correct. So there is no environmental contamination, no evidence of environmental contamination on the site, and there is no evidence of significant wildlife habitat on the site. The major environmental feature on the site is, of course, Lemon Gulch, which the developer has agreed to contribute $2 million to, which will create really a regional amenity, not just for this project, but for the entire community. Next slide. The proposal is consistent with the town's master plan, not only the future land use map, but several of the master plan's goals and policies, and I won't enumerate them there on the slide. Next slide. There is adequate waste and sewage disposal, water, schools, parks, and other amenities, in addition to the deficit reduction fee that's being contributed. The developer is working with the seller of the property, the Cherry Creek Project Water Authority, to dedicate actually more than sufficient groundwater resources to Parker Water and Sanitation District as part of this inclusion, and then cash in lieu will be provided instead of a well site. The cash in lieu will be provided for school district, as well as a capital mitigation fee. And then the Lemon Gulch itself will be dedicated by the developer to the town, and then the other open space and parklands will be dedicated to an HOA or metro district. Moving on, the approval criteria for the subdivision are similarly straightforward. The subdivision is consistent with the master plan as just discussed. It complies with all the requirements of the land development ordinance. It complies with the PD guide, and complies with previous plans, which really is just the PD guide for this property. And then all the public notice requirements have been met or exceeded on this project. So with that said, we would respectfully request your approval of all 4 of the items that are in front of you this evening: the annexation, zoning, annexation agreement, and subdivision. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, any member of the project team is available to answer questions that you might have. So thank you very much, and we would request your approval.
Brian, thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant? No? Seeing none? All right. We'll open it up for public comment at 7:52 p.m. If there's anyone here wishing to address council on this specific item, just as a reminder, 3-minute time limit. You can see the thing up above me there. You're going to give your name and address for the record, please. At the end of the 3 minutes, I'll cut you off and ask for the next person to come off. Just as a reminder as well, you may hear people give their opinion that you agree with. You may hear people give their opinion that you don't agree with. We're all adults in the room except for the kids from Chaparral. And so we will treat each other with the respect and honor everyone's God-given right to their opinion. So there won't be boos, hisses, applause, hooting and hollering, all that stuff. Everyone gives their opinion, and we'll go from there. So name and address, young lady.
Wanda Wilson, 7600 North Crowfoot Valley Road, unincorporated Douglas County. I'm the lone cowboy that's sitting out there on Crowfoot. This project is all but approved. I'm not stupid, but I'm still going to stand in front of you and tell you and share with you my journey through this process of annexation and rezoning. The promises and the behavior by City Council is not very happy. And the reason I say that is that a process of which I once believed in was designed for the people now has proven just to be noise. This includes promises from our mothership, Douglas County, with all the pretty presentations of IGA agreements that we, the taxpayers, have paid for, only to find that these written words are nothing more than false hopes. I was actually told I should have got involved with my government official earlier. I did. In 1990, I pointed out that there was a very poor land steward sitting on the open land space that they're going to give you. It is contaminated. I saw your people. I saw your people last week. They were on top. Did they do an environmental hazard study on the 18 acres that are open space in phase 2? Folks, there is trash buried there. It is a quasi landfill. Mayor, with all due respect, last time I spoke with you, you told me to be careful because the town didn't have good general liability policies.
I'm going to just, hold on, let me pause that right there since you called me out on something. I would have never, ever quoted anything about the town's insurance or liability policies in any capacity because I have zero control or knowledge of the town's liability policy.
You just said, be careful, ma'am, don't fall, because we don't have good liability insurance.
Oh, I made a joke about the step on the, on you walking down your step?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
so just to be clear, it had nothing to do with land development code. I made a joke about you walking down the stairs.
Anyway, I'm just here to tell you it will be challenged because they did not do an environmental hazard study on Richland Landscaping, who was down there for the last 40 years. We can show you buried trash, toxins. I have complained over and over and over to Douglas County with no avail. I found a good quote, and this is how I feel about this journey I've been through. The quote is by Larry Flint. Yes, probably not much respected, but nonetheless. Majority rule only works if you also consider individual rights, because you cannot have 5 wolves and 1 sheep voting on what to have for supper. I'm the lone sheep out there. I don't live in Richland subdivisions as they tell you. I don't live in the town of Parker. I can't vote for you. I can't volunteer for you. I live on County Road 43 and I am zoned Ag 1. I am going to be surrounded by these people. Surrounded by them, which I don't mind. I'm not here to stop progress. Not only am I not here to stop progress, but I'm not about the backyard protest. I'm here to say, really? You're going to shove all these people?
Thank you, Wanda. Your time's up. I'll give you about 10 seconds to wrap your thought up. How's that sound?
See, and that's another thing I don't appreciate. They get 15 minutes, we get 3 minutes. In conclusion, for the records, if approved, you will have a controlled, regulated rules subdivision behind and on the sides of our unincorporated Ag 1, where we have trailers, equipment, animals, multiple vehicles. We're not like kinds. Now ask yourself, what are you going to tell these people when they call the police? You, that I have all this stuff here.
Thank you very much, Wanda. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the 3 minutes.
You're very welcome, dear. Next up. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Lauren Bankston. I'm at 5892 East Richland Drive.
One more time, sir.
Lauren Bankston, 5892 East Richland Drive. I'm here again as I live in that neighborhood, and yes, we've had 3 meetings with these folks, and every time we've had a meeting, they've changed their tune on different things. They say one thing, then they come here and they've said something different. It's becoming very frustrating. Again, I realize we can't stop the progress, but I think that they are not listening to what our concerns are. And part of it is we are rural residential where we're at. They are going to pave part of Richlawn. Well, if they're going to do progress, we're asking right now to pave the entire thing. If they're going to do it, at least do the whole thing instead of just doing part of it, to at least give us something for what they're doing with us. We are concerned about the city lights. I mean, out there now, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, it's dark, you can see the stars. That is all feeling like it's going to get taken away from us. So we're concerned about that white pollution or that light pollution. So we'd like that to be considered. It also says, as far as environmentally speaking, or the animals that are out there, I will completely disagree with them. I live out there on a daily basis. We see herds of deer. I see golden eagles. I have bald eagles that come to my house. This week, I had more than 12 pheasants come walking through my place. There are coyotes. There are porcupines. There are lots of different animals that live around that area, and I just know that that's not going to be there. That's one of the reasons why we moved out to where we did. We want that space. We moved out there because of that. I worked for the town of Parker back in 1990 for about 5 years, and this change has been tremendous. I've seen it. I helped build the rec center. I was there for all part of that. And one of the things that I read was the biggest concern that people have right now with the town, it is growing too fast. And I think that that's something and that we need to all consider and maybe take a step back a little bit and say, is this something that we really need right now? I don't know what else to say except I just wish that we had a little bit more consistency. I wish that they would be more upfront as far as what they are telling us. When we were at Anthology, they're like, yeah, we'll pave the entire Richlawn. If that's gonna help make you guys happy, we'll do the entire thing. Now they come here and say, well, we're gonna stop right where the entrance is. Again, we can't stop the progress. I know we can't stop it, but at least they would be considerate to do some of the things that would help make it a little bit easier for us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. All right, next up. Name and address, sir.
Carl Wilson, 7600 North Crowfoot Valley Road, unincorporated Douglas County. The open space area along Lemon Gulch, which would become the town of Parker's responsibility, is contaminated. For decades, a landscape company maintained equipment yards and an illegal landfill on that site. Wanda and I complained to Douglas County numerous times about the buried trash, workers living on site, storing fertilizers and other toxic materials. They also kept and maintained equipment on that property, stored fuel and oil. I personally witnessed fuel tanks that had blown over during storms and oil drums not properly maintained. I highly recommend an environmental study for these reasons. They were out, I saw the guys out in the field. They never went down into Lemon Gulch. They never went into the open space area which we're talking about. It surrounds my whole backyard. A portion of the 90-acre parcel is in a 100-year floodplain. The entire property flooded in 1965, all the way to Crowfoot Valley Road. There's been little or no flood control along Cherry Creek since that time. During a wet season, all the debris buried in Lemon Gulch could be washed into Cherry Creek, doing major damage downstream. This would become a liability of the town of Parker. What is the plan to protect Lemon Gulch and the 267 families that are proposed to live just above this 100-year floodplain? An example is Lyons, Colorado. They thought they were safe too. They're still rebuilding their town. The intergovernment agreement with Douglas County and the town of Parker agreed annexation will conform with existing and surrounding use. The current surrounding use is Ag 1, rural residential horse property, and not medium density housing. So the proposed Meritage Project does not conform with your agreement with Douglas County. There is no surrounding properties paying any Parker property taxes. On the proposed wildlife corridor, Douglas County has designated this as a high wildlife corridor. Lemon Gulch is a natural habitat corridor, bringing deer, antelope, other species to the water of Cherry Creek. Red-tailed hawks, bald eagles, jumping mice, coyotes, owls, The boring owls are there. They've been there longer than I have, so they're there. You're going to have to deal with them. Some of these species, like the owls, have been living in Lemon Gulch longer than the landscapers have been destroying it. We want to ensure that the Colorado Division of Wildlife has signed off on this project, and we request a copy of that. In conclusion, we ask that you postpone your vote tonight, take an in-depth study of what you've been presented previously and with what you've learned tonight. You can believe a developer or a resident who's been living next door for 30 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next up. Name and address for the record, please.
No problem. My name is Sharon Lures. I live at 7151 Richland Parkway.
Was it Cheryl?
Sharon.
Sharon.
S-H-A-R-N. I've been living there for approximately 30 years. We've, like everybody said, we've met with the builders and all this stuff that's gone on. Meritage Homes, great, supposed to be the greatest. If you look on the internet, we got a 1 out of 5 rating. We want to talk to them about this little access to our street. We've asked them not to make the access. We know it's got to grow. We know Parker's got to grow, but we're asking for limitations. Our folks in our area ride horses up and down the street. We also have the corridor, so everything's being pushed from the south side as far as animals. There are 2 huge 5-point bucks, and there are 5 does that are running around my backyard in the valley. So don't tell me that it's not a corridor for animals, because it is in the wildlife. There's all sorts of birds and things. If you start putting a 6-foot fence up on those houses, where are they gonna go? You got 2 options. They're gonna go in the street, or they're gonna either go on Crowfoot, or they're gonna go on our street and get nailed. And unfortunately, that's a very sad thing. So, not sure that's a good plan with this big 6-foot fence. We don't want the pavement to some extent because of the people riding horses. My biggest concern is on your own plan, it says you will have, as you go out with the city, we are at the end of the city and the beginning of Douglas County, you will have low density. Not medium high, not medium, but low density. Our acreage of our 14 homes is the same amount of acreage approximately is where all these homes will be built. We have 14 homes that live there, and they're going to put 265 homes. So the wonderful idea about that little access on our street sounds like a good idea, but if you're sitting in that thing, and if for every home, if there's at least 1 or 2 cars, you're talking about a lot of cars, over 500 automobiles that are going to be going in and out that area. So do you think they're just going to stay to their one area? Probably not. We've asked them to consider making a north access, or excuse me, an east access out to Parker Road. There is a plan in the 2035 plan to continue that Jordan Road, JP Morgan Road, excuse me, but that's not okay because that doesn't work with them. Concerning about the well situation, they're going to put a big massive well. Is that going to affect our 14 homes and make us drill our wells deeper? And it's very expensive, if you're not aware, probably somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. So you're affecting a lot of our life and how things are going to be. And if I can only make a right turn out, I can go into Parker, but when I come back home, I can't get into my street. And I think it's an insult when I can't pull into my own flippin' street. It's irritating. We have one way in, one way out, and they're going to take part of that. And I don't think that's fair. So I respectfully ask you to consider these things, and that people need to be respectful of why we live out there, and we do enjoy the stars and the moon and all the wonderful things Parker has, and we come spend our dollars here. Well, if you keep cutting our access off to get back into town, we're going to end up going to Castle Rock to spend our money in. So you might want to consider that. I'm not threatening, I'm just telling you the way of the life. I got one way in, one way out.
Thank you very much,
I
Jan.
appreciate you to think about those things.
Appreciate it. Next up. Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Van Coten, and 5760 Richland Lane. We've been out there for 29 years. We have met with the planners or whatever 3 times, and they have not really listened. Our concern is we do have animals. We have horses. We bring in hay. We bring it in by the semi-load. Where are these semis going, especially if they do the configuration where you can only do right-hand turns? I can't remember what else.
No, you're fine.
But I just think you need to consider it. We did ask for more buffers between rural residential and all these homes. They've put a little bit in, but we have still homeowners that are butt right up to all these homes that are going to be backed up to them. We ride horses. I think the master plan when we originally moved out here, there was trails. There was going to be horse trails. There is nothing. You know, we can't get anywhere with our animals anymore like it used to be. The plans have changed so much over the years. But I think need to really consider the road. I agree with everybody else that lives in our subdivision too, with everything they've said, but I just think it needs to be considered a little bit more.
Thank you very much. All right, next up. Okay. Seeing none. Oh. Is that a next? Okay. I can't tell sometimes if people are just moving or just name and address for the record, please.
James Shadler, 5828 Rich Lawn Drive. We originally moved to Parker because it was an agricultural-based town. Now, all over Parker, there are developments, new single-family homes. Matter of fact, we have 8,000 of them going plus in a 2-mile radius where this proposed build is supposed to go. The infrastructure to support this accelerated growth is just not in place, and it's years from being even developed. Crowfoot, Stroh, Main Street, Ridgegate Parkway are all in need of expansion, some in progress, some proposed, but it's not there yet. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We will have this planned community right across the street. What happens when they complain about the noise and smell of our farm animals? What do we do when they drain our water table? Please preserve what little agricultural property remains in Parker. Only when the last tree is cut down, the last fish eaten, and the last stream poisoned, you'll realize that you cannot eat money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up. Okay, seeing none. Last chance. All right, we're going to close public comment at 8:10 or 8:11 p.m. I've got a couple questions down here. Council, do you have any questions before we?
I do. I'm looking, I guess, maybe your traffic engineer. I'm looking for clarification, either from our staff or from Meritage Party, on the right in, right out. What's going on there?
So as Ryan mentioned during his presentation, currently Richland will remain a full movement after this development. With the long-term development of the entire corridor, if additional access points are needed to serve the additional side of the road, because of the proximity of this access point to Richland Drive, there may be a need to restrict a left turn in or out of this of Richland Drive. Again, for two reasons, mostly because of the amount of traffic that's going to be in place on Crowfoot Valley Road. Long-term projections show that somewhere in the, I think it's 15 to 20,000 cars per day. So with Henslow Parkway being a signal on Crowfoot Valley Road, the town's criteria doesn't allow for another signal to be placed that close to Henslow Parkway. So Richland could not be signalized long-term, and due to the traffic, it wouldn't be a safe condition to allow left turns in or out of that access point.
Okay. Other questions, Josh?
Yeah. Is there plans? Does Parker Water have plans to put a well on this site, or are they switched? I mean, have we?
The answer is no. Actually, there is an existing well on the site which will be plugged and abandoned.
Thank you.
And so, if this property were to develop as residential property, there would be wells on, or as rural residential property, there would be wells on the site, but there will be no well on the site.
Thank you.
Could you just, because I heard a couple of people go, huh? Because it sounded like you said there is and there isn't. Just clarify what the difference between that is.
So if the property were to be developed as rural residential, so at the acreage that Rich Lawn is currently developed at, those properties would have wells. At this density, you can't serve this type of development with a well. So
explain to everybody
water
where
will
the
be coming. The water will be coming from Ruderhest Reservoir and wherever else Parker Water gets its water from. So it'll come in a pipe down Crowfoot Valley Road and into the into the site.
So anyone who currently has a well in this area, Parker water is not sinking, just to put it clear.
For
It's
anyone
not
who has a
sinking
well,
any-
anyone who has a well in the area, that well will not be affected. The water table will not be affected as a result of this project.
Okay. It's one of my questions
That
too.
was my question. One of mine too.
Other questions, guys?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
I'm still not quite clear on the movement, and not having attended any of the meetings. If the folks were talked to or promised regarding paving of Richlawn Drive, that would be a problem for me, that was a commitment and that's not being followed through on. Also, I'm extremely concerned, having been here for a long time and did not witness or live there, but when I was further south, I know what was there at Richland. And the environmental issues that the adjoining residents have brought up are a great concern to me, because I don't know that Corps signed off, Fish and Wildlife. I don't know. That's something that you can't go back and undo if it moves forward.
Sure. I would have to let Meritage address the commitments to pave throughout the Richlawn development. I would ask them to answer that. But regarding the potential for trash and debris and environmental issues within Lemon Gulch, the improvements to Lemon Gulch that were mentioned are still under final design. So as a part of that, we can do exploratory looks to see what we find in the creek. It's not uncommon that there is trash and debris within creeks, and if it were to be found, it would either be designed around so it would not be disturbed, or it could be mitigated or removed along with the project.
Sure, and Councilwoman Lewis, to answer your question about the paving, so it was discussed that paving was an option here, and actually feedback from the majority of Richlawn residents was that they did not want the street paved because they have horses, they walk the horses or ride the horses along the street, and so this was really an accommodation that the only part that would be paved was up to the entrance to Richlawn. As for your question about wildlife, the project was referred to the Colorado Division of Wildlife. They had no comment on the project, which generally signals that there's not a concern about wildlife habitat. Again, there was an environmental assessment done in 2015, which was updated or renewed as of last week, that there is not significant wildlife habitat on the site. Lemon Gulch is used as a wildlife corridor, and part of the reason for the improvements that are being done is to enhance it as a wildlife movement corridor. And then, as Alex mentioned, the improvements that are being done to the gulch will, to the extent there is trash or debris there, that would offer an opportunity to clean it up.
Okay, and part of my concern because I know what was happening there, intentional, unintentional spills, storage of things that you don't really want to have stored underground. How has the environmental study gone into that depth?
So the environmental study looked at, I think, 40 or 50 years of aerial photographs to look at what was taking place on the site. It's involved site walks. I think has there been boring? Any boring? Boring has not been done on the site. I will say though
no boring, no core samples.
Not to date. With that said, we've talked about this as a project team because this issue was brought up at Planning Commission. So we plan to do additional study before doing any grading on the site, because obviously this is a concern. If there is contamination there, it's a concern for us as well. It's not limited to just a concern for the neighbors.
John.
To further that, so if it's a concern, you with this annexation approval are going to commit to mitigate, improve, and remedy this potential
if there's any contamination, we would have to. Okay. Yeah.
Not just Parker's requirement, but an EPA requirement.
Oh, yeah, it's a state, federal, I mean, every level of government has that requirement, sure.
And how long would you have to do these core samples for that? I mean, what is that approximate time frame?
I'm not an environmental engineer. 6 to 8 weeks is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Amy, did you have a question?
It was already answered.
Okay. Renee?
I Yeah, one more.
Josh?
Can we talk about east of there and the connection to 83? Is there any sniffing going on?
Not that we know. The property is a different ownership, the property to the east.
So when that connection happens, as we have stated, progress, if you call it that, is there a need to keep the secondary access through Richlawn's property if we have a touch at the east side?
So that's a question that I would defer to the town's staff on. Our project team advocated against having that access point because of the concerns that were raised by the neighbors. We certainly understand that that's a requirement for emergency vehicle access, but I would defer to town staff on that.
It wouldn't necessarily have to remain in place. However, it may be a benefit to have that in place to allow Richlawn to access the signal long term. But if there was another second point of access, theoretically for fire life safety and traffic distribution, it may not be needed at that point.
So that access point could be shut off then at that point?
It could.
Is that what you're asking?
That's I guess that is definitely my question. I mean, to bridge between rural residential horse property and medium density, I understand the fire need now, by all means, and I just think that if we have east access and we have our 2 points of access to go across the county line, to go across the town line into unincorporated county, I do believe that it's not needed once we get eastern access there. Of course, if it is right in, right out. So talk to me about that. This project itself, that is not going to play so much in the right in, right out. That this is southern density that's coming from unincorporated Douglas County, Castle Rock, whatever, into town. That's going to take away their access.
Correct.
And not so much this project.
That's correct.
But this project's light determines that they don't get a light in the future.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And that's because it's 267 versus 14.
Yes, and I believe, and I wasn't involved in all the initial discussions, but I believe at one point it was proposed to have the signal located at Richlawn Parkway and Crowfoot Valley Road rather than the new access point to Crowfoot Valley. And I believe the neighborhood was not in favor of that because that would have led to a lot more traffic going onto Richlawn Parkway and using it. So, understandably so, but I think that was an option at one point.
Other questions? I just have one question on numbers, and I'm not sure if this is best for you guys. Just to clarify on a couple things. Initial presentation mentioned 21% of the properties dedicated to open space, and later it was mentioned that 6.4 acres were parks internal and 18.9% open space. I'm just curious, is that 21% both parks and open space combined, or just the open space?
The number that I referenced, 18 acres and 6.48, those were acreages, and as Ryan presented, I think it was 21% of the property is open space.
So that 21%, does that include both internal parks and open space?
It only includes open space.
Okay, so the percentage-wise then of parks and open space combined, in other words, the amount of non-homes going on this place is actually closer to, what, 27%, if I'm doing my math correct? I'm not a math guy, so.
Neither am I. 26 acres divided by,
all right,
or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, that's just all that I wanted to make. So about a quarter of this property is going to be non-homes, either parks or open space.
I think that's
it would be more than a quarter. More than a quarter. The property is 90 acres total, so it'd be, yeah.
Well, the attorney is doing the math.
It's scary. It's scary when it happens.
No, that's just want to make sure I had the right number. All right, other questions? Thank you very much. All right, with that, I would entertain further discussion from council or motions on 4 items.
I have a point on, one more question, I guess, or one more point on the environmental study. I'd like to add a condition that we go farther into the study and we satisfy both. I believe it's going to save your money in the long run. Unfortunately, it's probably going to cost you a little up front. But I believe it's more important because there are historical knowledge in this room that have been here a long time. And if you could get an environmental group that would actually interview some of the knowledge in this room and walk the sites that they're talking about, because I mean, I've been here since '89 and I know what Richlawn did. I mean, it's not a secret in this town. So I don't know how to word that. I don't know what the best way to put that in. Miss Debbie, maybe you.
Jim?
Yeah, because I know what was happening.
Mr. Maloney?
Mr. Conley, are we talking about a phase 3?
I think we're talking about, I think
Or
it'd be a
phase 2?
I think it'd be a phase two. Yeah.
So maybe the condition would be something like a phase 2 environmental analysis prior to the first final plat for the property?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And that would include borings, not just walking of the property
Yeah,
and
no,
talking.
walking doesn't
No,
count.
a phase 2 is,
For me.
Yeah, a phase 2 is boring.
A phase 2 is more in depth
boring.
than a
Jim.
phase 1. Yeah.
Jim, they've submitted their final plats for filing 1 and 2, so maybe prior to a
Rating permit.
prior to approval of the final plat is what I was going to suggest.
Well, that's where we were going.
Okay.
That's fine.
Because you're approving the final preliminary plat tonight, so we tied to the approval of the first final plat.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
we'll agree to that.
Okay. Now you got to work that in there.
And that is going to be what? Say that again. I mean, I know when it's happening, but that will encompass what being done environmentally.
They'd actually have to do soil sampling of,
Yeah.
of the
Core-
property.
Or samples.
Correct.
Core samples.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Maloney, where do you want that?
Well, if you take a look at the fourth motion,
Okay,
I'd make it subparagraph D,
okay,
that the applicant complete a phase 2 environmental assessment prior to the approval of the first final plat for the property.
phase, or I'm sorry.
Phase 2.
Phase 2
Phase two.
environmental.
Environmental assessment.
But that would be item E. I believe we have a D.
Yeah, sure. So under paragraph or a motion 4, it'd be a paragraph E, new paragraph.
Okay. Other discussion before we have a motion? And remember, we've got 4 motions, 1 amended. Okay. I'd entertain a motions, please.
Move to approve ordinance number 2.258 on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Josh and a second by John. Council, please vote. Motion passes with 4 yes and 1 no. Councilwoman Debbie Lewis voted no. Next motion for number 2.
I move to approve ordinance number 3.325 on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Josh and a second by John. Council, please vote. Motion passes 4-1 with Councilwoman Debbie Lewis voting no. Next item.
I move to approve the annexation agreement between Meadowlark based upon staff findings.
Second.
Motion by Josh and a second by John. Council, please vote. Did I go too fast? There we go. Motion passes 4-1 with Councilwoman Debbie Lewis voting no. And then the last amended motion, number 4.
Did you write it down?
You can say what you can and then have Maloney.
Okay.
I move that town council approve sketch and preliminary plans subject to the 5 conditioned stated in the staff report with the additional conditions stated by Attorney Jim Maloney.
Oh, that's a way to do it.
Does that work?
Happy with that, sir?
Second.
Sure, and then we're clear that the new condition would be applicant completes a phase 2 environmental assessment prior to the first final plat for the property.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Josh and a second by John. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item on our agenda is item number B. This is ordinance number 3.332 on second reading. This is a bill for an ordinance rezoning certain property within the town of Parker, Colorado, known as Country Meadows Square property from PD plan development to modified commercial district pursuant to the Parker Land Development Ordinance and amending the zoning ordinance and map to conform therewith. And Stacy, you're going to lead the show tonight.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the intent of this rezoning is to bring the uses permitted by zoning for these properties up to date. The proposal would remove the property from the Country Meadows plan development and rezone the property to modified C commercial. The property has been posted and all public notice requirements have been satisfied. So a little bit of background on this property. The property is located at the northwest corner of Hess and Parker Road. So in 1983, the property was annexed and zoned into the town of Parker. It was zoned Country Meadows Plan Development. In 1991, the Country Meadows Filing Number 1 final plat was approved for the property. This platted the property into an unbuildable tract. In 2004, the Country Meadows Square Minor Development Plat platted the property into 8 buildable lots. In 2007, 2 site plans were approved for the property. The first one was for an 11,000 square foot child care center, and the second one was for a 4,500 square foot service street automotive repair shop. In 2009, an additional site plan was approved for a 7-Eleven convenience store. In 2017, 2 additional site plans were approved. One for a 6,000 square foot dental office, and the second for 41,000 square feet of commercial retail space within 3 multi-tenant buildings. The Country Meadows Plan Development zoning was created in 1983 and was written to allow very specific commercial uses. As development and commercial uses have evolved over time, the plan development has become too restrictive and does not respond to the current economic conditions. The proposed rezoning would bring the zoning up to date as well as remove the property from the PD zoning. In addition, the town recently completed an amendment to the C Commercial Zone District to update and define particular uses. The proposed rezoning will align the allowed uses on the property with the town's vision for commercial properties. The town's master plan identifies the Country Meadow Square property as a neighborhood center. Neighborhood centers are characterized as retail, office, and service commercial areas designed to serve the needs of the surrounding residents. The proposal to rezone the property from planned development to modified C commercial is consistent with the neighborhood center designation. So in conclusion, staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan, provides adequate access, infrastructure, drainage facilities, and design considerations. Utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability, satisfies the 9 criteria required for rezonings within the Land Development Code, and the Planning Commission heard this case on March 22nd, 2018, and recommended unanimous approval. So therefore, staff and the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve ordinance number 3.332 on second reading. This concludes the staff report. The applicant is here tonight, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Stacy. Council, do you have any questions for Stacy before we bring the applicant up? Nope.
I do.
Oh, go for it.
The exterior architecture, there were 2 different.
That one.
Yes. It's either or both.
So I took some pictures of existing buildings as they were being proposed on the site. So the top picture right there is stone and stucco, and that is currently under construction right now. That is one of the 3 multi-tenant buildings. The bottom picture is of the dental office. So again, it has that stone and the stucco material on it. It's a consistent stone throughout the building or throughout the development. But they are a little bit different in architecture.
Yeah, and that dental office is 6,000 square feet? Is that
6,000 square feet.
Okay. Other questions, guys? No? All right, if the applicant's here, come on down. State your name and address for the record, please.
Gene Gregory, 367 Sandy Hollow Trail, Franktown, Colorado 80116. I'm the owner developer of the property. We're currently building 2 phases of 3 buildings. The building that you see right now is we call Building B up there. There's a mimic of the same building turned the other way, which is Building A. We're currently leasing the properties out, and when we started to lease it up, we found out that we couldn't put a brewery in, we couldn't put a exercise facility into the center. So we got a hold of Stacy and said we just need to get concurrent with your guys' current zoning and the rest of the town. And that's what pretty much we're proposing. And I have 2 of my tenants here, the brewery and the 9 Rounds workout facility tenants, that if you need to talk to them, they'd love to.
I just want to clarify, so I can go get a beer and then go work out.
Yes, you may.
Which means I will then go back and get another beer and then just keep doing that all day long.
We also have a boutique. You can go buy a dress for your wife.
I get both. Do they come in husky size? Because, you know, okay. No, I'm just teasing. All right. Council, do you have any questions for Gene?
Gene, are you wearing a California hat?
Oh, I live in California. I live in California. I'm from New York, which is me.
Just met in the middle, right?
Yeah.
All right. Council, questions for Gene?
No, I appreciate the forethought on this. It's nice to see somebody work with the town and get in here before they get restricted, and then can't do what we would like to see as a citizen. So I appreciate you coming down and doing this, and I appreciate you lining up your leasees already and getting it going.
It's proven to be a successful endeavor so far. The first building's pretty close to being 100%, and we're moving on to the second building. So we're pretty excited about the growth, the uses we're getting, restaurants, and for a neighborhood center to have, boutiques and clothing stores and breweries and that kind of thing. I think there was a big need for it on Hess, especially with Anthology coming and all the traffic that is brought on Hess right now. And I think it may relieve some pressure off of Main Street in Parker, so people don't have to go to that end of town.
Yeah, I second that. I'm a big advocate for the neighborhood centers. I believe that is the answer to the traffic instead of that crosstown traffic. Having to go from Idlewild over to Jordan to get my dry cleaning, that just adds to the problem. So it's nice to have something closer. So cheers.
Okay. Well, no other questions. Thank you very much, Gene. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment at 8:34 p.m. You guys remember the rules from earlier, and they still stand with this one. 3-minute time limit. Clock is up above me, so if there's anyone wishing to address council on this item, now is your time. Come on down. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Lynette Clifford. I live at 19660 Culpeper Circle, Parker, Colorado.
I'm sorry, did you say Lynette?
Lynette, yes. I live directly behind that top building. And when we were here at the Planning Commission, we never really got a straight answer as far as odor coming from the brewery, if there is an odor or not. And then also they said that there was 2 ways in and 2 ways out, which is not true. There's only 2 ways in and only 1 way out. And so that was kind of an issue for me as well, because they pretty much lied about that when we were at the Planning Commission. So that's pretty much my concern, the concern for the traffic as far as the neighborhood, the quietness, which we won't have anymore because of the restaurants and things. And I know he said that he planted over 80 trees and stuff behind the building and things, which is not true either. I counted the trees today. There's not 80 trees. There's 18 from the one end of the building into the corner of where the patio sits. My concern is the patio as well, is because our property sits below the building. So anybody sitting in that patio can look straight down into our backyards. And it's not so much a concern for my husband and I, but the people who live on our neighborhood have all little kids that have to go to school in the mornings, and they don't take that in consideration whatsoever. They never asked, they never did anything. We got no questions about that. So that's my concern. I know it's already a done deal, so that I just want to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else for public comment? Come on down. You sat in the one spot that's going to be the hardest to get out of. Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Aaron Murphy, 23744 East Mississippi Circle in Aurora, Colorado, 80018. I'd just actually like to see if I could directly address some of Lynette's concerns to the council regarding the brewery. I'm one of the owners and my wife here of Welcome Home Brewery, and we're hoping this passes so that we can continue working with Gene and going into this development. One concern that she mentioned was odor from the brewing. We're going to be a very small operation. This isn't going to be the Coors plant. This isn't going to be Anheuser-Busch. This is a very small local operation that is designed to appeal to the craft beer enthusiasts here in Parker. We won't be venting any of our gases, steam essentially, from the brewing process out into the air. We're a small enough operation to where that'll just get rotated through our regular HVAC there in the unit and kind of rotated through the return air. So nothing will be vented directly out into the air there in the neighborhood. So the brewing operation odors will essentially be contained within the unit. And it's not going to be something that's producing any kind of noxious fumes or anything like that that would affect our neighbors there. in the homes there immediately adjacent to the center. With regards to the noise, I can understand a concern about a business that makes its money predominantly from sale of alcohol and the noise that's kind of generally associated with that. I'd like to kind of address that by noting that breweries are much different than bars in their, not only their clientele, but also their operational rules. With the state's liquor licensing, because of the type of operation that we'd be doing there, we're not allowed to sell alcohol past midnight. So we won't be open until 2 a.m. like some of the bars and other things that people might be used to, as far as that noise level, and also the late nights. I understand there's kids going to school and stuff in that community. Our plan is to not be open past no later than 10 p.m. on weekdays and no later than 11 p.m. on weekend nights. We feel like that's a out of respect to our neighbors and also a reasonable time for kind of what we're doing. We want to be a location where people feel comfortable bringing their families. That's a big part of the brewery culture, not only in Parker, but just in general. The craft beer culture is a very family-friendly environment, and we hope to be a part of that community that surrounds us and not just a nuisance to them.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up, anyone else for public comment? Okay, doesn't look like it. Going once, going twice. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close public comment at 8:40 p.m. Council, do you have any questions?
I do.
Debbie.
On the entrance, exits, two ways in, one way out.
Stacy moved that microphone pretty fast, did you?
Smoothly.
Yeah.
Also.
The citizen is correct. There is two entrances to the site. The easternmost access, closer to Parker Road, that is an entrance only. There is no egress from that access point. The western access point is a full movement. That is supposed to be signalized. The developer has funded their half of that construction. The town is going to be designing and installing that within the next year or two.
And just to clarify, a question for me too, there is no direct neighborhood access into this development at all, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions, guys? John?
So the two access points that Councilmember Lewis referenced, that satisfies the fire conditions?
Yes, it was approved with the original development back in 2003, and still meets the requirements. And there is an approved traffic study for the development as well that shows that adequately serves the development. And with the new zoning, there should not be any increased traffic or minimally increased traffic with that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? No? Then I'll entertain further discussion or a motion, please.
I move to approve ordinance number 3.332 on second reading.
Second.
Motion by John and a second by Amy. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item up is 9A. This is ordinance number 5.79 on second reading. This is a bill for an ordinance to amend section 5.02.660 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning public notice of liquor license applications. And apparently we hit like our 1 hour mark because every teenager is standing up and running out the door. Look at this. Now look, I guilted a few of them to sit back down. That's all right. Mr. Maloney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The proposal before this evening is a recommendation by the Special Licensing Authority to amend the ordinance concerning the public notice required for a liquor application. Currently, if you do apply for a liquor application, there will be a public hearing. The notice requirement is one sign posted at the liquor establishment for 10 consecutive days before the public hearing. There was some concern raised with the King Superstore in Cottonwood when they applied for their liquor application, that the notice was not adequate because there's multiple entrances into the King Super store. And so the recommendation would be, if you do approve it, there would be a sign above every entrance into the King Super store or any other liquor outlet that wanted to open up in the town of Parker. Generally, it's not been an issue in the past because most liquor establishments had one access into the store, but it's becoming more of an issue as more grocery stores are allowed to sell alcoholic beverages. So that's the request before you, and again, it's recommended by the Special Licensing Authority.
So just to clarify, this isn't specific to King Supers. This is specific to any liquor store that has multiple entrances.
That's correct. King Supers was just the example.
Okay. Council, questions? No? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment at 8:43 p.m. If there's anyone who's itching to talk to us about liquor store entrances. It better not be a teenager. If one of you guys stands up, I'm serious, and we got a couple officers in the back who are going to want to talk with you after this. All right, seeing none, we're going to close public comment at 8:43 p.m., and I'll entertain further discussion or a motion, please.
I move to approve ordinance number 5.79 on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Debbie and a second by Renee. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And the last item on our agenda, item 9B, this is ordinance number 5.80 on second reading. This is a bill for an ordinance to amend chapter 7.01 of the Parker Municipal Code to allow traffic direction, regulation, and control by appointed special police officers. And that does not include the mayor or council getting to direct traffic, does it?
Please.
Come on, Doreen.
If you're designated by the chief or his
If we're designated, yeah, then we're in a whole world of hurt if this is the best choice.
So amending this ordinance would allow the chief of police to designate those as special police officers to direct or amend traffic. When we, neighborhood services transitioned over to the police department and then transitioned into community services, one of the goals was to figure out ways that they can support additionally the operations of the police department. And one of those was to help with directing traffic on accidents. So this ordinance would amend that, and the chief of police would then designate the 3 community service officers as special police officers, allowing them to direct or amend traffic.
Do they get a special badge?
They do.
Like a little, like a sticker, you know.
Especially
Does he get a better utility belt, you know, with extra stuff on it, some flares, you know? Nice. All right. Council, do you have any questions?
So Doreen, this basically would just free up officers to then take reports, do any of that type of documentation for, say, an accident, and or also free up officers if one's doing that. We have our other commissioned officers doing this. Then the other police officers could then take off and be out patrolling the community.
Yeah, so it's
Kind of freed up that
definitely
way.
not look to supplement or take the place of a commissioned officer, but really to add assistance when directing traffic. So as you guys know, if an accident happens on Parker Road, by the time they move their vehicles around and or someone's taking the time to direct traffic, it would be nice for the officers then to actually just be able to handle the accident and have additional staff that they can be brought in that are trained to do so to help with the traffic control. They kind of do it now already when they have to pick up signs or debris in the roadway. They pull off to the side, they have their emergency flashers on their vehicle, and vehicles go around them now, and they go out and remove the debris from the roadway. But now we'd like to extend it to accidents or anything else, maybe special events or something where traffic has to be altered for some type of a special event in town, that we can have additional staff be able to do that besides a commission officer.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
You're welcome.
Josh and then Renee.
So I guess my concern is I definitely agree with freeing up the commission officers, but also I look for more time constraint, unfortunately, on the green shirts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I love calling you guys that because I love you guys. So how is that going to work? I mean, what are we talking about? How many accidents a week?
Sure.
What are we looking at? Are they not going to be able to do their regular duties because they're simply going to be directing traffic on Parker Road?
Sure. So the community service officer's job is going to kind of be threefold. Number 1, code enforcement. Number 2, animal services. And then they're going to assist with non-emergency calls for service. That ancillary duty of non-emergency calls for service is where the traffic control would come in. It would only be at the discretion of the community service officer or their supervisor when time is allowed and available that they're already able to do so. So it would be at the discretion of the supervisor, and as time dictates that their other jobs, code enforcement and animal services, are done. Now I could say, as being a supervisor on the road, if something major came out and they were on something that was not major, I'd probably pull them from that if we needed additional personnel to assist with it. But it's really threefold and only at the discretion and when time allows to do so.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Renee?
Is there special training or something that is given for that?
How long was your classroom?
Yeah, we just took a 4-hour traffic.
So the 4-hour classroom course had to occur at first. Then what they're going to do is they're going to go through the first phase of PTO, and PTO is the police training officer program that we do for all commissioned personnel. And that program is divided into 4 phases. Phase A for them is actually non-emergency calls for service. So after this, assuming the assumption if it does go through, they had their classroom portion, and now they have on-the-job training. They'll be teamed up with a commission officer for 4 weeks. At that time, learning other non-emergency calls for service, let's say house watches, maybe thefts without suspect information, kind of the jobs and the calls that Riley and Desiree took at the front desk, counter reports on traffic accidents that they're already trained to do so, they would still be able to assist with those. So their training outside of animal and code, which was 12 weeks long, will now be with an officer to kind of get that on-the-job training, because directing traffic is much different learning in a classroom or being out in the middle of an intersection.
They learn how to do this.
That's right.
White gloves?
White gloves. Other questions, guys?
A whistle?
One more?
No, just kidding, no whistle.
Good.
And I really apologize in
That's
advance
okay.
if I say this really bad or really wrong. So if they're out doing traffic stuff, what's to prevent the public from knowing if they're like full-fledged officers versus non-full-fledged officers?
Yeah. So another
Green shirt.
a number of communities are looking at ways that they can supplement and assist their commission officer staff. And so Colorado Springs does it, Lone Tree Police Department is doing it, and they're looking at community service officers, which is a civilian-based position. And they would still have their OSHA requirements, which means they have to wear a traffic vest that's reflective outside of their car when directing traffic. It's green and yellow. Back in the day, it used to be orange and yellow when we wore them, but now they're green. So the things would be the same. I would hope that at any major intersection, let's say Parker and Main Street, that they're actually going to be teamed up with an officer, because a number of those intersections are so large, you actually need 2 people to direct traffic. It's not just one person there. But say there's an accident, and again, it's all time dictated on their other calls for service. Say there's another accident or in a subdivision or a special event that they need Victorian shutdown, maybe for a parade, and somebody can be there to assist, they would be helping with those things as well. So it would be the same as as someone who works for CDOT and flagging. When someone's out there directing an intersection and they have the authority and right to do so, then the person that's operating the motor vehicle would have to obey those traffic laws.
And as it is now, when our guys go out, don't they have a vest that they put on the yellow or bright?
Green.
The green.
It's
So
like green
you would
and yellow.
basically throw that on as well.
It would be the same. Same that when our explorers are out on ride-alongs and they assist officers on traffic control or anything else when they're assisting, they would wear that same thing. It's required by policy through our CLIA standards and through OSHA.
Okay. Debbie, you had a question? No? Thought you raised your hand.
Nope.
John? Amy?
I'm good.
Josh? All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up for public comment at 8:50 p.m. if you'd like to come up and learn the proper way to direct traffic. You started to move down there, young lady. Are you going to come up?
I'm going to be teaching the hand signals.
Might need extra credit.
All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment at 8:50 p.m. and I'll entertain further discussion or a motion, please.
I move to approve ordinance number 5.80 on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Amy and a second by Renee. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. With that, no further business before council. We will adjourn at 8:51 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone.